So we might as well get started. And I'll call the meeting to order. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda? I know that there was a request for one additional item, funding from the county, from Councillor Gilroy. So that would be item 10.7 under administration. Is there any other amendments?
Councillor Stenhouse.
Can you hear me?
Councillor Stenton? Okay. She made the motion?
No, I want to make an amendment.
Wants to add another addendum.
Can he hear me?
You gotta go right up to that.
Can you hear me? Hello? Testing, one.
That's not going to work.
She's coming up to the screen.
Okay. Can I change the order of the agenda? In 10.2 in the bylaws, can we put the fees bylaw at the end? Can we talk about the bees and the hens and then talk about the fees? Because there's some conflicting information there that I just discovered tonight.
Oh, so you just want to change the order?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Put the fees
Yep,
bylaw as the last.
Okay, so item 10.2 would go to the bottom, and the other ones would move up. Okay, we can do that.
10.6?
No, just move your...
No, but I mean...
So that'll move down. Item 10.2 will move down. We'll put it down as 10.6.
That's right, yeah.
Okay. Any other alterations? I didn't see who had made a motion to adopt the agenda.
Nobody. Councillor Gilroy.
All right. All those in favor? I see one hand, but
Carried.
all right. You know what? With this, we might try I'll try something different as we move along.
I don't know what to push. Sorry, Brian,
Brian, do we have a public delegation?
None.
None? Okay, thank you. So we'll move on then to the minutes of June 9th. Can I get a motion for those?
Yeah. I just want to Councillor Gilroy.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make the official motion. The council approved the minutes from the June 9th, 2020 regular meeting of council as presented.
Okay, thank you. Any alterations on these minutes that people see? All right, I don't see any alterations or any comments. So I'm going to try something different. Instead of all in favor, I'm going to ask if anybody's opposed. And then if they say something, then we know that we can go back. Is anyone opposed to adopting these? Okay, they are carried. Business arising from the minutes. I had one item I'd like to ask about, or I think we need to deal with, and that was that the Northwest Charging Network. Because I know we had wanted to, in our council meeting, talked about sending a letter as a I forget the exact words, but just as a non-money giving supporter. And I know that the letter was drafted, and then we had, I know Nancy, I believe, was waiting to send it out to get approval from council. there was, I made a comment, Councillor Daneka and Councillor Stenhouse made comments, and that was it. So I just wanted to know about that letter.
2 no's.
Okay, so
We have 2 yeses, 2 no's.
I made one in there.
Said there was 2 yeses and 2 noes on it.
Oh, okay. So
If we didn't spend any money.
what are we doing with it at this point? I guess not that there, you haven't sent it, obviously. There wasn't enough yeses. Who were the other yeses? I know I was a yes.
I was a yes.
Gilroy was a yes.
I was a yes. That's Councillor Gilroy. I was a yes on the basis that we would not spend any money on it. But if we had to spend money on it, I was a no.
Okay, again, I'm having a tough time hearing with that.
So it was you
Right.
and Councillor Gilroy that voted.
Oh,
yes.
okay. Okay. Well, perhaps we could just have a short discussion on that and see if we can either, well, send it or not send it. I know the concerns in the email that were raised by Councillor Daneka, and maybe I can just talk a little bit about those. Like, if I remember right, her concern was dealing with not tying our next council into any commitments. And I know Councillor Stenhouse just felt that it wasn't anything that we should spend money on at this point in time, because we had other more important things. Just from my point of view, I think number one, hopefully that the study would be over and done with. So we're not tying our council into anything. It's, like I said, it's just the study. It'd be nice to know what's going on, so if we send the letter, at least we'll know what's happening. I don't think it commits us to anything. It's not stringing them along. It's just saying, okay, let's see what's going to happen. We might have to identify where we would put a charging station if it did come to that point. But I don't think it's committing us to that. It's just saying we want to be involved, support the idea at this point, and then in the future, once it got to a specific item or cost, then we would have to debate those specifics once it gets there. So I would, I guess, just like to put it back out there, see if we can get the letter sent as opposed to forgetting about it. So I'll open the floor for other comments.
Councillor Stenhouse is coming forward.
Okay. If they talk right into the mic, does it not work? Can I not hear? Oh, okay.
So do we know if any local dealerships sell these electric cars here right now?
I don't know that.
Revolution, sorry.
Revolution, the ones that own Ford and the Chevy dealership, I know that some of their other dealerships, such as the Kia in Grand Prairie, are selling them.
Local then.
But it's that group itself that is investing in those type of cars. So they can bring those kind of cars in, I was told, if we ask for them.
See, my concerns are, have you gone down out by the funeral home there, those roads that are all ripped up and buckled up and everything? We don't have good roads for our gas-powered vehicles that we own to drive on that need repairs. Do we know of anyone who owns an electric vehicle in High Prairie? And yeah, no, I can't support it at this time. There's not enough information on these electric vehicles, how they do up here in the north, and how the batteries are going to uphold. I can't support that.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying in that I'm not saying that this is in terms of money, what it would cost, and we don't know that. You're absolutely right. Is this something that we need right now? No. Like you said, there isn't a lot of electric vehicles. My point, I guess, is that this is a point in time just to get some information to stay in the loop with what they are doing. If we don't join in with that group, they're going to go ahead. We won't know what's going on, or there's a good chance we won't know. So I'd like to just be able to say, okay, at this point, we support the concept. We're not committing to any money or to putting in anything. But basically, I think we're saying we want some more information as we go forward, and just see where it'll take us.
But if we're not ready to act on it,
She said if we're not ready to act on it,
why get involved in it?
why get involved with it now?
Okay. Again, just my thoughts are that we know what's going on, and we can make a decision once we get more information. I don't know how fast this is going to happen. They're going to be doing some research. That was what they wanted to do, was be able to get some money together to hire a consultant to do some research, look at what it would take to develop an electric corridor so that it could be promoted. And I'd like to know what those results were, see if we could be involved in that moving forward. I think as we move ahead, if electric vehicles become more prevalent, and we could be one of the charging stations as people were going to Alaska or to wherever, it would be nice to be in that position to offer that service. But that's where I'm coming from. It's not, I don't want to say we're not going to pave a road at this point and develop an electric charging station. I'm saying let's just see what they have to offer. So, okay.
Mr. Gilroy has a comment.
Okay.
Okay, once again, the letter I sent said I was in favor of it originally, as long as it didn't cost us any money because of the crippling effect of our Big Lakes County clawback. But I guess one of my concerns has just been raised in response to Councillor Stenhouse is the priorities of this town. At one point we had priority as the broadband. And then, so do we actually have a list of priorities, even if we're researching these things? Where does this come in on our list of priorities for this town? Because we need to have a positive plan in order for people to actually want to invest in our town. So where would you put that as a priority in our town?
Okay. Okay, well, I don't, I could hear parts of what he said, so at this point, I guess maybe we can, I'll make a motion, we'll either pass it or it won't pass, and we'll go from there. I'll make a motion that we direct administration to send a letter to Edson regarding the non-monetary commitment to the Northwest Charging Network. I think it was an associate member. I haven't got it right in front of me, but as a non-paying member. You got that, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll do a quick vote. All of those in favor? And opposed?
3 opposed here.
3 opposed.
Yes. If you defeated.
Okay, it's defeated, okay. All right, moving on to item 7.1, call a public hearing. Can I get a motion on this item?
Councillor Dineka.
All right,
I make a motion that council call a public hearing to be set for July 14th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. to hear presentations for and against borrowing bylaw 082020.
okay, any discussion on this item?
Yes.
Did we not pass this in the budget? Did we not already pass?
This is the borrowing bylaw.
This is what?
A borrowing bylaw to get a debenture to buy the truck.
Same night that the firemen are coming?
Pass a motion for it
But
already?
this is the steps you gotta go
Yeah.
through to get that money.
So
It's
that,
the financing of what we put in there.
so it was just a motion, nothing was done
You
about it?
approved it as a council, but now this is the steps that I have to go through in council to actually borrow the money.
But what if in this presentation, there's a whole bunch of people against it? Does it still go through? Like, because we passed the motion to borrow the money for the fire truck, and now we're doing a presentation. Doesn't it seem like we're taking the steps backwards?
No, you have to provide this to the ratepayers. You gotta give them their opportunity to speak for or against the borrowing of the money. So if they don't want fire protection, they're gonna be in here and vote against it or raise their concerns against it.
So this could change the motion, is this presentation?
I don't think it will.
It. Brian, can I do something?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, when we, as far as I understand, when we have a public meeting, public hearing, people will give their opinions back and forth, for or against, and reasons why, to give us some input so that we're not making all decisions, especially this kind of a financial commitment, without some input from the public. It may, if there are some good arguments, it may sway votes, and we may change it and may have to look for another way in which to finance this. But we have committed to a truck, and so fire truck, and so we have to figure some way to pay for it. It's in the budget, but this is the way we're going to finance that part of the budget.
But that's what I'm saying, shouldn't the presentation have come before the motion?
No.
No.
The petition period is over, so we didn't receive a petition. So now we just open it to a public hearing, which we're required to by the MDA.
I just have a question. The date that's on here, July 14th, isn't that the same date the firemen are coming for their presentations?
Yes, and that would, this meeting would be at 6:30.
And they're coming at 7?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I can see your point, good point.
All right, any other discussion on this? No. Okay, is there anybody opposed to this?
None.
Carried. Now we'll move on to our financial report, and we should start with a motion here. Who would like to make a motion regarding our financial report?
Councillor Stenhouse?
Go ahead and read
Okay.
it.
What's the button?
He can't hear me. The council received the financial report for May 2020 as presented for information.
Okay, thank you, and we'll turn it over to Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. How's everyone? Good? I can't hear.
We're not all here.
I'm assuming everyone said good. I'm really happy to be with you tonight to talk about the year-to-date financial statement to the end of May. And before I begin, I'd like to thank Brian and his team, because I wouldn't be sitting here presenting this information to you without all of them. They did a great job in helping me dig in and run reports out of the GL and all kinds of stuff to send the information down here to me in Sherwood Park, so I can help build that financial model. So I want to say thank you to Brian and his team. They did a great job, and I'd like council to know that. So I got a little agenda for tonight. I'd like to go over the reports again. I think you have 5 different types of reports in your package, and I'm going to go over those reports. They are structured very similar to the budget reports that we did a few months ago. I'm going to kind of delve in just a little bit so you get some understanding of what the financial reporting model is that we built. It's a big Excel workbook, and I wanted to share a little bit of detail on that. I think that helped build some confidence in the numbers coming forward. Then I'm going to talk about monthly budgets. I'm not sure you've seen those in the past, but from my perspective, they bring another level of information to the financials each month, and I think they need to be in. We did some pattern development, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, and I have a little bracket in there. It is a work in progress. So it's the first time we're doing this, so we are working in progress on those, and I'll explain that a little bit more. I'm going to go into a couple of big key messages, and then I'm going to talk about the significant variances and the difference between a timing variance and a permanent variance, and then we'll have some time for some questions. So with that, I'll push on and talk about, so do you see the Excel spreadsheet now, Brian?
No,
No? Okay, hang on.
your agenda's still up.
Okay, hold on. Oh shoot, hang on. Do that, and then see it now?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I just have to pull up my agenda again, see what I'm talking about. Okay, overview of the reports. So in your package, we gave you a lot of reports this month. We thought it was important that you got them all, and whether you want them all in the future, that's maybe for you to decide, or if you want a smaller package. But this is the first package, and it's a 1-pager. It should be the first report in your package. It was the same as the summary budget when we compared 2020 budget versus 19. This compares our year-to-date actual to May versus where we think we should be to this point in the year, and a variance between those two numbers, and then a reminder of what the annual budget is. And it's a 1-pager. It gives you a great snapshot of all the revenues, the summary ones, and then the expenditures, and then a net. The second report you should have, and Brian, did it switch on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. You'll have this detailed financial report. And what that does is it blows open all those numbers on the first page. So when you saw utility charges and sales, you saw this line on the front. These are all the different individual accounts that drive that number. So this one's about 6 pages long. And you might see some highlighting here because those are some of the variances I don't want to talk about later. And so it's set up the same way with the year-to-date actual, the year-to-date budget where we think we should be, and a variance between the two, and the annual budget. So this is the detail report. And again, if we scroll down, you'll get a summary on revenue. If you scroll down, about page 6, you're going to get a summary on expenses and then a net. Okay. The third report is another 1-pager, and it's by department, not by account. So if you go back to the detail, see all the different accounts. This is by account. This one is by department, so it's by department. All one number by department. And if I'm going too fast, Brian, you tell me to slow down. So this report looks at your revenue, your expenses, and your net. And when you look at revenue, it says what year-to-date revenue should be, and your budget and variance. Same with expense, and then the net. So if you looked at administration, we think we should have $172,000 so far. We have $155 or a little better than that year-to-date. We think we've actually spent $739. We thought we'd be at $464. We're over. This is our budgeted net. So if you took the difference between the actuals and then the net, this is the variance of the shortfall. So that's how you read this report on the department. And it's a one-pager again. The bottom, it shows you the exact same numbers that are on the other two reports. And I will mention, I'll talk about these numbers down here when I talk about the model. You did get this other report, and it was a summary report. And I'm just going to show the print preview, just so you get to see it. This is a one-page legal piece of paper. Yeah. The one you can't read. It does show revenues and expense and net, and it just shows you all the different departments that they have, and then the revenues and expenses by each department. And that's as deep as we want to go, because Brian's right, you can't read it after that. We have another one which is even more detailed. It's the one that drives the entire workbook. It's the individual accounts by each department, and it's quite big, and that's what drives the report, the actual whole Excel workbook. Then we have your approved budgets. I don't need to show you that. And then in your report, you have an individual department report for each one of the departments. So you can see administration. You can see, roads, where there should be, each one. So those are the 5 different reports that you have in your package. Is there any questions on the report?
No, I could say the reports are good. They're easy to read and follow. So that was great. Thank you.
Good. So I'm just going to take a minute to talk about the model. So this is an Excel workbook model. I'm sure many of you are aware of Excel workbook models and how they work. And it's interconnected by a whole bunch of individual spreadsheets. So these are the spreadsheets on the bottom. So you have summary, detail, and then you actually go through all the different departments. These are the individual departments, so the Buchanan, the Sports Palace, and these are drawing their information from those summary reports. All these individual reports fold up into the detail report. So if I clicked on that cell, you can see how it links all the different reports or spreadsheets in the book. And then the summary links it off the detail. Throughout the model, there's a whole bunch of different double checks. So things that should be 0, these should all be 0. These should all be 0. So when we're out of budget and the budget is the model is out of balance, you'll know. So it's good to have all these models in there. So this model here is developed, and then what happens is there's a standardized report that gets pushed out of the GL every month. They send it down to me, and I take that raw data and turn it into these financial statements. Okay? So I'm not sure if in the past you've actually had a year-to-date budget.
Yeah.
They had a year-to-date budget?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to explain a little bit about how we develop that. We think it adds another layer to the number. If without this number, this column, if you say, well, we have 163,000 in sewer fixed fees, I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know if that's good. If we're good in that number or we're bad, if there's trouble, or if that's a lot of money, more than what we expect. So I just picked one. But what we do is we take this annual budget and we spread it across the entire 12 months on how we think it will be spent. And that's done in the individual department reports. So let's take taxes for a second. How do we come up with $750,000 year-to-date budget? This is the percentage on how we think we're going to earn our tax revenue throughout the year. These are the actual numbers. And this cell is summing the first 5 months up to May. So that's how we get that budget. And every account in every department has its own budget pattern code. And of course there's double checks down the side. Has to be zero, has to be zero, has to be zero to make sure we're in balance. Things like roads, or a lot of it's in the middle of the year. Things like let's say natural gas, it goes way up in the sum. The pattern changes from month to month, depending on the service that you are providing. Things like the Buchanan, mostly on the sides, the winter months. So when I said it's a work in progress, it's a work in progress because I built this model several times for several different municipalities, and based on the 30 years that I've been doing budgets, I tend to know how municipal services generally work, but there's always things that are a little different in each town. So it is a work in progress, and we'll make changes this monthly budget spread as we know more and more, and the team in the office are doing a great job at that. So I wanted to share that with you. So let's go to
You want to take a question now, Dave?
sure.
Okay, considering our new treasurer starts July 1st, is this going to be part of your training for her to then adopt this model that you're working on?
Hang on. What was that, Dave?
I can't hear the question, so maybe just repeat it. You repeat it.
Considering we are having a brand new treasurer July 1st, will you be training her to use this model, or will she be using her own?
When Rita comes on board, when she starts on July 6th, what model will she be using? I would hope this model.
Well, I'm not leaving on July 6th. I'm going to stick around for 30 or 60 days and make sure she's comfortable. She comes from a small village as well, that she probably had her own reporting. I'm hoping to share this with her. I'm hoping that she likes it, and that she's very good at Excel, and I can transfer this model to her, and that she can carry on with it. So that's my hope. But she's your new CFO, and she says this is terrible. I hate it. That's something new. Then I apologize if you see something new in the future.
Ask him if he found those restricted accounts, Brian, that he was trying to find.
Are you going to talk on the reserves or asking me?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I can talk reserves tonight. I don't have any certain number to present to you tonight. I had some thoughts and comments with Brian today. If you want to talk reserves, I think we should probably go on in camera a little bit to talk about it.
Okay.
And we can do that after I finish.
Sure.
Okay. So let's carry on to the key messages. Do you see the key messages, Brian?
No, your agenda is, oh, yeah, key message.
Okay, so I have two key messages before I talk about variances. If you look at the summary report, it's the one pager, your first year-to-date financial report and look right at the bottom, you will see that these numbers. In the year-to-date actual, you'll see $769,094. That's a net. That is based on year-to-date we've made $3,424,708 in revenue, the number above, and we've spent $4,193,802. We're running a deficit year-to-date of $769,094. Based on all of our year-to-date budgeting, we think we should be at $788,173. Only $19,000 difference, and it's 2.4% variance. That's the good news. The concerning news is that the numbers above it have wild variances, and I'm going to talk about some of them variances, and a lot of them are due to COVID. Some are timing, and some are permanent, but I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get to the variances. But the good news is, bottom line, you're very close to where we think we should be. And I think that is more luck than anything else at this point, Mr. Mayor. But the good thing is it's not a huge deficit at this point in the year, which some municipalities are running because of COVID. Maybe I'll just jump into the variances now, Brian? Sure. Yeah, key messages and the variances, so. I'm still learning how to move from thing to thing here. Hang on. Shoot. Did I lose you?
No.
No?
You can see your face.
Something's going wrong here. Can you see? There we go. Sorry. Can you see the spreadsheet, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the summary sheet. The blue ones I've identified I don't think are COVID related. The green ones I think are COVID related. And I'm going to speak to some of the major differences, significant variances on the detail sheet. So if you want to follow on the detail, I'll hit some of the variances that I think council needs to be aware of. And ones I don't think are a big issue at this point. It might be just our timing on what we thought our pattern was. So we need a little tightening on those ones. So I'll just jump into some of the variances. Natural gas consumption charges. It says we have $736,000 versus a $400,000 budget, and our annual budget is $800,000. And you can see the difference, how much money we've made in natural gas. It's significantly more than budget. I'm going to scroll down to the actual purchase of the natural gas. So the one I showed you above was the revenue we earn. We've actually spent that much money on the purchase of natural gas versus an year-to-date budget of this. So we actually overspent on the purchase of gas. Again, there's the $800,000 in and out. So we're overspent on our expenditures. And we have over revenue on our sales. So I think the reason for this variance is twofold. I've looked into the detail. It looks like you have an extra month in there. It's December that the auditor has not accrued out. So there's an extra month in there. And I think the amount, this budget amount, is based on a gigajoule rate that's lower than what's actually occurring. So when we sell the gas, we have a cost of gas plus our fixed fee plus our transmission fee. We're generating a lot more revenue than what the budget says we have. At the same time, the cost of gas is much more than what we have budgeted. So I think there needs to be some more detailed review on this budget number, 800,000, based on what the current gigajoule rate is per gigajoule natural gas going forward. So I think this budget might be a little low. The good thing is when you miss it, you miss the rate, it always helps the budget because you earn a little bit more off the rate than just the actual costs. So the cost of natural gas and the revenue of natural gas offset each other somewhat. I've highlighted a whole bunch of greens, things like swim lessons and school lessons, advertising sales on, I think that's everything from rink boards to anywhere else you sell advertising, vending machines and permitting, facility rentals and ice rentals. All these revenues are under budget, quite a bit under budget. And any other year you'd be quite concerned by the amount of revenue that you're not earning in these accounts. These are all COVID related. And if I scroll, I don't want to go through every one, but fining, all these different fines, and even salary, like you're $132,000 to the good in salary because you're not hiring as many people. Training, travel, conference fees, advertising, all these ones are in green are COVID related. More cleaning supplies than normal, that's probably predicted. Fuel and oil, you're not using as much. A lot of repairs and maintenance are not being done on facilities and on mains and on gas meters and grounds maintenance for parks and JC Park. You're all under budget on all these. So if you go back to my key messages, you're only $20,000 missing your year-to-date budget bottom line, but there's significantly less revenue and significantly less cost year-to-date, and they're kind of offsetting each other. The one good thing I think Mayor and Council needs to know is Brian and his team have actually made an expense for the tax relief that Council approved, and they made it an actual. So they're impacting the budget year-to-date. And I'm not sure this is the right way to do it, but they did that, and it was already in the year-to-date, so I wanted to talk a little bit about it today. Whether you make an expense or credit the revenue, there's a discussion on which one is correct. But this bottom line is being impacted by an over-expenditure of almost $287,000. So really you're in a better position because this is not actually spent. It's an allowance at this point. So this is how much revenue you expect not to claim, and it's been set up as an expense at this point. So, like I said, it can be a discussion either way.
Councillor Gilroy has another question for you.
Sure.
Dave, is this also, when you're looking at the expenses, is this taking into account, we did extra early renovations and repairs because we wanted to keep our staff on, which would normally be held later on in the year when we do the pool in November or someplace like that. But we did it early. Does this also reflect the expenses for the early work done?
I couldn't hear that, Brian. You have to repeat it.
He was wondering if the work that we had done at the pool and that, like the early shutdown and that, if that's reflected in the budget.
No, it's not in the budget. The budget's approved. It reflects in the year-to-date actual. So I'll show you the rental revenue, like facility rentals, and not rental revenue. Swim lessons, like we made $5,500 of a $28,000 budget. Swimming lessons of a $25,000, $5,000, $4,700 of a $25,000 budget. Advertising, sales.
Councillor Gilroy is going to sit here and ask you the question.
Okay. We are actually earning $41,000, $460,000 off the year-to-date estimate.
Okay, the question I had, since you had broken everything down to monthly budgets,
Yeah.
we usually do repairs and maintenance on our major facilities the ice arena, the swimming pool, places like that later on in the year. Now, since we did that early to keep our staff employed longer, is that reflected in our year-to-date? In other words, are those expenses recorded early as opposed to waiting for later on?
Okay, I hear the question. And I'll just, now you probably see the pool up on the screen.
Yes.
Right? So if I go down to the pool individual account, under repairs and maintenance, you were well under the year-to-date budget. The amount of money, you have $50,000 in building repair, you've only spent $6. Equipment repair, you have $30,000 budgeted, you've only spent $8. We thought we would be at $20,000. That's a 112. Both of these broke down by 112. Like equal amounts each month. That's the pattern we applied to that amount. If that's the case, we should have spent $20,000 or $21,000 year to date of the $50,000, and we've only spent $6. So I would say very little repair and maintenance has been done at the pool.
So we should be actually higher than we normally would be at this time because we did the work early, is what I'm saying.
It'll be reflected.
Okay.
Brian, just before Dave continues on, are you able to put one of the microphones right beside the computer with the speaker? And it might help.
It's right on it.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I know why it's not working.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just tough to hear still.
So, Mr. I don't want to go through every one of these. We'd probably be here for 2 hours, but I just wanted to show you there's a trend happening. Less revenue because we're closed, less expenses because we're closed. We're very, very close to where we think we should be at year to date. It might be more luck than anything at this point. Going forward, the advice is to really, really watch our expenditures, especially based on the amount of revenue that we're earning as we open up all those facilities. So, not too bad. 5 months into the first 12 months of 2020, I thought it might be a little worse than that, especially when you think this $20,000 at the bottom here is after almost a $287,000 expense. If they didn't do that, this number is much better. So you're even a better year-to-date possession. So you have a little bit of leeway so far year-to-date, if that's a high message that the council wants to take away. I did say I talked about timing variances and permanent variances, and going forward, if this type of reporting structure is used, there's two types of variances. When you see a variance in the variance column, right away your eye goes to the bigger variance, and it's either one or two things. It's either a timing variance, meaning we earned the revenue before or after we thought we would, or we made the expenditure before or after we thought we would. And that's just a timing thing. It's going to happen as we planned. We just missed the month that it was going to happen in. So timing variances aren't a big deal because it's going to happen, or it already happened ahead of what we thought it would be. The ones that we need to be concerned about are permanent variances. A variance that came up, like some of the blue ones. Like this parts one. It is my understanding there was some significant repairs on a major piece of equipment. Grader, Brian?
I think it was a vac truck and tobacco.
Right, so we thought we'd be at 45,000. It's a 1/12 spread. We're at 58,000. I was 90. So we're still within budget, but we're a little ahead of where we thought we would be. Computer support, much lower than where we thought we'd be. Contracted services, under where we thought we'd be. It's a timing thing. Same with some of these. And some of these are actual variances. This is an engineering variance of $102,000. We spent $117,000 on 45. That's not timing. That's permanent. This is for a traffic impact assessment on MPE Engineering. They're looking into the exact project that it's for. We believe that there is offsetting revenue, that perhaps it should be in a capital account, so this may be a correction in future months. Professional consulting services, that's the company I work for, and those are costs that were unbudgeted for me to be here. It's offset by savings and salaries. Other professional services was a large payment to Superior Safety Coast for Northland College for all their permitting on that facility. We think it should be a 2009 cost, and we're thinking that that should be accrued. This is a permanent variance if it doesn't get accrued back to 2019. That's kind of what a permanent variance is. And an auditor, well, this is timing. We know where you spent. What's that?
Can you just hang on for a second? I'm
Sure.
going to explain the engineering here to the councilors
Okay.
that are here. What that was that was for the road turnoff out by the Tim Hortons, and MPE applied for a grant for that, but we paid for it out of our revenue, but the grant money is there someplace, but it's got to be reallocated to. Yes. Yes.
So we either A, haven't recognized the grant revenue, or B, it should be in a capital account.
Yeah.
Either or.
Okay.
Okay? So what I encourage council to do is you focus on the detail report and you focus on this column. Your questions should lie here. If you ask me, why that's $3,000 so far, it's probably timing. I wouldn't know the answer to every one of these. If you had a detailed question, I could get back to you on it. But I've dug into some of the ones that are obviously timing or COVID related. Actually, I forgot to highlight this one. Daily admissions to the pool should be highlighted as well. Definitely, we've only made $19,000 so far on the $70,000 budget. So hopefully we start to regain some of those revenues once the facility and the town starts to reopen again. And Mr. Mayor Brian, CEO, that's my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Any of the councillors there have questions? Brian?
Here's got a question for me.
Lots of questions.
Let's go to page 4 of 8 on the detailed financial report.
Page 4 of 8,
Under
the detailed financial report.
Yeah.
My account, right?
let's go to line 595.
What account?
Sponsorship. $750. Ryan, where was that spent?
They have some budgeted for that.
Or budgeted for 2,000.
I know, but nothing's been, it's a dash.
Year to date is.
Year to date's where it's spent.
Okay.
First off, where
That's
it's
what we should have had. At that time, we should have had given out $750. We haven't, that's why it shows credits for the bracket for that. $750.
What am I doing now?
Are you talking requisitions or grants?
Sponsorship.
So where, I've read this.
For council?
Yes, other revenues, it says line item 595.
Other revenues.
Yes. We haven't spent anything on there yet.
There could say there was confusion between
Right.
the budgeted amount and what's spent.
Okay, alright.
So that $3,000 is in
Showing you here.
sponsorship, is in the aquatic pool.
So that would have been sponsorships for the fire department to go swimming in.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And the pool's closed, so they don't.
Yeah. So there's nothing in there.
Because the pool passes to the
Okay, so
fire.
where's our line for donations?
We should have earned $750 to date. We've earned nothing. So we have a variance.
Yeah. What do you look at
Where our line for donations, I looked.
that?
When we donate something, so we have to account for
auctions, is it an expense?
Yes. When they give donations to whatever
To silent auction.
student groups or
No,
whatever.
no, like, okay.
Well, we call it municipal grants.
No.
When you donate stuff to these radio auctions, or when we fixed the cemetery, that was a donation, what?
That's not in there.
I thought you were talking about when we give in to
That's not part of it.
the Elks, or when
No,
we give something.
no, that's a sponsorship, I'm talking about a donation, we're actually just giving it.
That's in kind, like labor.
But we should not reflect in our budget that money where it's going. Like, there's a price tag to all of this. Like, okay, and I'm not picking on the cemetery, but we donated sitting on the cemetery. So, there's time, there's equipment, there's fuel, so that should add up to a donation, that's the only thing. That's what I'm looking for.
What she's saying is that the town now is helping some of the church groups fix, say, the gravesite, or the
Right.
cemetery, and
Yeah.
she's wondering how that would be reflected in the budget, if it shows labor, equipment, but I don't believe it does.
I think I'm looking at
Well, we have no costs expended in cemetery.
that.
We have
No,
some material.
That's for our own cemetery, that's for the
Oh.
McHugh cemetery.
The donation of time.
So you're saying that we're doing an in-kind donation, we're
Yes.
sending some crews out to do some stuff?
Yes,
Is it COVID related?
no,
Setting up.
Then I don't think it would be a transaction recorded for that, Brian.
no, and I know there isn't.
Same thing though.
It's covered off under the labor, just general.
It would just
labor.
be in supplies, and general supplies, and people's budgeted salary already.
Yeah.
And whose budget is that not coming out of council?
Like there wouldn't be an individual line for that one.
It'll be part of the normal thing.
But why not? We should have a budget.
That's probably coming out of the public works budget,
Yes.
the equipment and labor, because they're the ones that are doing the work, right?
Are you
So under roads,
Yes.
Are you saying you want to know at the end of the year what we've given in time? Okay, that's what she's looking for, Brian.
yeah. So roads are doing not too bad. We're going close. Like roads are still operating. They're not. It's not a public thing. They're out there working, right? So, yeah.
What
You know,
what I'm saying is the labor and
Very close.
the equipment and that would be all covered off for the in-kind donation that we're doing to the cemeteries.
Right, and it might be an off-book calculation or tabulation if you want to say we gave this group this much in-kind work, but the GL wouldn't reflect that, Brian.
Okay.
I think Councilor Stethouse just wants to say, at the end of the year, we gave away in-kind hours, it was worth $30,000.
That's right, that's what I want.
Something like
They
that,
want
to show that we,
They want a number for the end of the year to say that they've given in-kind donations of X amount of dollars.
I agree. Maybe Vern can tabulate some of that off-book on the side and say how many hours did we work. Our work is valued at so much per hour. You know, if salary is so much on you know, gravel or materials that we provided, then
We may have to put another line item. Go from there, I guess.
Yeah,
Break it
it
out.
would probably be kept separately, right? Because it wouldn't be part of our operating budget.
No.
But it could be something that we could say to that organization we spent this much. Just like what we do when we supply some things to the rodeo, when we put up the barricades and clean the streets. There's a cost associated with that, but it's not maintained as a separate line item anywhere.
right. So when you look at municipal operating grants, this $361,400 are out-of-pocket checks that the town writes. You're actually writing this check. You're not doing the work. You're writing the check. And if you wanted to put something in there as a donations to organization or community organizations, you have to expense it there. So I'd probably have to get back to you on how we might manage that. But I think it's a good idea to at least keep track of how much you're offering and supporting these groups.
Any other questions there, Brian? I had a few, that's why, but I just...
Okay, go ahead, Brian.
Oh, okay. When I was looking at the government operating grants, did that include the summer student grants that we got, COVID related, that's in there?
It did. In fact, I'm not sure that was even budgeted to the amount that we received.
No, it should be more because
Yeah.
due to COVID, they were covering all of the costs of that summer student program.
No, we didn't get covered for all of it.
Oh, I thought they were covering
When
more.
Anita dug into it, it was only for a portion. I think we received like, or we're gonna receive like $8,700 alone. It's a portion.
Oh, okay.
It'd be a portion of one summer student.
This is the federal grant here, right? Right?
Yes, I believe.
That's the amount. That's the STEP grant that we budgeted for STEP grant, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. We put it in roads. It's a STEP grant, I'm sure. But we haven't received anything yet.
We just got notification on how much we were gonna receive, and that's
Okay.
what I said it was gonna be $8,000 some odd dollars.
Yeah, I remember reading that. I thought we were going to get more than what we thought.
I did too.
Yeah, it's not there yet. Okay.
I'm just looking, another question I had, it's not necessarily the budget, but just a general question, is that we're halfway through June now. How are the taxes coming in?
That's part of my report. You want that now?
Oh, well, we can, okay.
I can give you that now, and then that'll save me.
No, but they have to leave.
So, Corinne just printed this out for me this afternoon, and we've collected on 326 tax rolls already. A little over $1 million.
In June.
We got 361 people that pay pre-authorized, and we collect $108,000 a month. So that, in the 12 months, that adds up to 1.3 million. So I think the total tax that we were to collect was a little over 4 million. So we're doing quite well.
Okay, so we're getting lots of people coming in to pay their taxes. It's not just the
Yes.
set out ones,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
I think I think we did a total, and there was 1,180 accounts, all tax rolls that have to,
Right.
and there's 493 left to pay.
Okay, so just a little over half, and we did defer. I was just wondering, yeah.
Yeah, no, we're well over half. But I think people are waiting for September, like some of the councillors.
Yeah, so this spread, Brian, is probably going to be spread over these 4 months then. We're not going to earn the big thing in June and July.
No.
It'll be spread over these 4 months.
Yeah.
So this would have to be changed going forward.
Yeah.
Maybe reflect what we actually think might happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, the other question, again, it's not directly related, and probably could have asked when we were talking about the loan for the fire truck. Where are we going to have to get a loan for the fire truck? I had heard rumors that the Alberta, where we normally get loans as a municipality, is being discontinued. Dave or Brian, do you know anything about that? I heard about it just in conversations with another councillor from another municipality.
I haven't heard nothing.
Well, there was some talk about that, government using a different mechanism to offer loans to municipalities. It hasn't happened yet. Right now, still the Alberta Capital Financing Association, and I thought they were probably thinking about maybe we should probably try this, but then COVID came up, and they're probably saying, well, we'll push it, defer it till we get past this. So I did hear a little something about that. They might think of a different instrument, and I thought it would help the provincial government manage the money a little better. So, but I haven't heard anything since that first discussion.
Okay. From the discussion that I had, this councillor indicated that it was the Alberta capital funding was going to cease to exist fairly soon. So when we're looking at a loan, we may want to look at that, but that was just their comment. I would say in the next few months it was going to be shut down.
Really? I have not heard that. Who said that? Can you share that?
Yeah, it was, I'm trying to remember which one we were talking. It was at a Heart River housing meeting, and I believe it was the councillor from Falher or the mayor from Falher that had mentioned that to me.
I'm going to do some searching while I'm talking to you.
Okay. Other questions. I just wanted to go to our salaries and employee benefits there, just because one of the things I was just thinking that, and I'm looking on page 4 of 8, which we were there a little earlier with Councillor Stenhouse's question, salaries and employee benefits. Yeah, that's it. Now, I'm just looking at salaries that where the year-to-date variance is only 28,000. And I'm thinking that should be much higher because we don't have a treasurer, and that treasurer would be coming out of that, wouldn't it?
Good question, a good observation. The salaries are generally people on salary that get paid every month or bi-weekly as they get paid. And you're right, there should be a big savings there from the treasurer. The treasurer's severance was paid in the first 5 months. And that's causing the variance to be less than what it should be.
Okay. Yep. Okay, that was my question. I just thought it should be a higher amount.
It should be, yeah.
Another question, not directly on any expenditures, but it is finance related, is a question on the 2019 audit. When is that going to be ready?
Next month, I think the end of July.
I think Nola's coming to present to council at the end of July.
Oh, okay.
He wanted to come mid-month, but because we had such a busy agenda coming up on the 14th, I asked him to come at the end of the month.
Okay.
We got the hearing and the firemen's awards and that, and the council meetings. So.
Okay. And another, this is a very two question. I'm on page 8 of 8 now on looking at municipal grants. And one of the things that we had talked about, it's not, again, not a big deal, but in this line 774, it talks about the medical doctor bursary retention, and that's that post-secondary bursary that we have out. Is that not it, Brian?
I believe it is.
Yeah, I guess it's just a naming convention there because it's not very, it doesn't describe what that bursary is being. Yeah. So I think we should rename that line item.
Return for service bursary.
Yeah, or just even a post-secondary bursary, and we know that there's return of service attached to it. And the other thing I was curious about was there was a line for carbon tax. Just down there, yeah. What was that about?
There's in each one of anytime we get a charge on a utility bill, there's a fee for a carbon tax, and they are tracking how much carbon tax they are spending. So if you went to anything that has electricity, so let's look at maybe the arena. They expect $6,000 on their utility bills, both for gas and power. That's how much they'll pay this year.
Okay.
So they're actually tracking corporately that they think they'll spend that much money in carbon taxes that they have to pay. We also track GST, and there's a whole other GST reconciliation behind the scenes of this. So they code it and they track it.
Okay, so that's not, okay, no, that makes
So that's what
sense
the town's actually paying to the federal government for
the new carbon tax.
Yeah.
Okay. The other question, just while you were talking about this, and it was a question that I've asked Brian, if you just, Brian, do you know anything more about those electrical bills for the Gordon Buchanan Center, why they're so high?
Shanda's getting a ACO to come out to do an actual read.
Okay. Because, yeah, it's just,
It's estimated.
Going back and looking at the bills, it looks almost like there's a decimal in the place in there. So, and the actual readings on that, on the Gordon Buchanan.
yeah. Well, and when we're looking at it, we're paying, when I was signing the check, like I brought to your attention, is over $10,000 a month, and we're not even using it now, right? Like, it doesn't seem right.
And I confirmed with Rick, and he said there's nothing on in there. So probably less than what's on at the sports palace.
Are we paying overtime for those that?
So Brian, just when Shanda's doing her work, and I didn't know she was working on that. What happens is the one of the biggest charges on electrical bills are called demand charges.
Yeah.
And if you spike demand in 1 month, then for the next, I think, 6 to 12 months, you're charged on that demand rate. So from a power supplier perspective, they say, well, you needed, like, I'm going to use a couple of generic numbers. You needed 20 units of power normally, but then you started up the ice plants, and you needed 36, and you did both arenas at the same time. Now I needed 70. Then they had to supply you 70 units of power as opposed to 20. They charge you at 70 because you needed it at one point during the year. Because at one point you needed 70, and they're not certain when you might need 70 again. And they charge you for that benefit. So flattening your demand on energy will help that.
Interesting. Well, it's definitely, but it's, yeah, and I guess they have to charge it to one arena or the other, but it just doesn't, just seems high to me. It doesn't make sense.
So the sports palace it's high as well.
Well, the Sports Palace now, the rate is quite low of what we're paying. Yeah, the Sports Palace for electricity is $5,000, not $51,000.
Yeah.
So
Canada's a big one.
big difference between the two.
Yeah. So from a corporate perspective on electricity, you're under budget. But that impact is probably driving your carbon tax as well. Definitely something to look into.
We are.
Yeah.
Okay, that that was my questions. Any other questions?
Councilor Gilroy's got a question. Yes, Mark?
Okay, my question actually is mainly for Brian and Brian, but Dave, you'd be part of this too. Do you believe that we're going to meet to discuss how to deal with the money that was reclaimed from Big Lakes County so that we can get all our projects done? Because originally we had talked about other terms and other ways of refinancing so that we could actually get the minimum road work done that we need to get done. So will we be meeting at a special meeting to discuss how to finance that? And Dave, you're in there because of the options of how to finance it.
Yep.
I'll let you answer that one, Brian, because I know any of those capital projects all have to be approved. None of them have been approved for extra funds at this point in time. And I know that they were getting ready for some of those and would need to either approve them or put them on hold until we make those decisions.
And actually, I can let you know that I did share that with Dave also, and me and Vern talked about it in the last couple of days here, that we're holding off on all the capital projects right now until we find a handle on the reserves and how much money we're going to be receiving by the gas tax and the MSI. So he still has a priority of 47th Street as one of the major priorities, but he figured that some of the other ones we could, whatever, look at next year. Like the back truck, the half-ton, lagoon dredging, he said could be put off the lift station and 52nd Avenue.
Has though the engineering costs, they're shovel ready, have those projects been submitted to the government?
I believe they have.
Okay.
I think they're going out to tender, actually, subject to funding.
Right, so we needed to know the exact price, right? So they're getting a tender and then we can come back and look at what we can afford?
Yes. And we'll be bringing that back to council.
I think MSI and the gas tax has been confirmed, right? Is there anything still outstanding with that? From my knowledge and the letters that I saw, that they've been confirmed.
Yeah, this is confirmed.
Okay.
That today you approved this funding, so for the fire truck, so that can go forward as well.
Yeah.
What's unknown is this funding from Big Lakes,
Yeah.
and this is what we budgeted for reserve, and we can talk a little bit more about that after this one.
Yeah. And that fire truck hasn't been approved. I should just make sure it's just been approved that we're going to have a public hearing on it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's in process, yeah.
That's right. Okay. Any other questions at this point in time for Dave?
You know what the contribution to Big Lakes County was? Line item 770 on page 8 of 8. That's the question.
Contribution to Big Lakes County.
It wasn't the FCSS, was it?
This one? I'll tell you right away. $48,000 for the airport, $100,000 for family community services, $15,000 for subdivision.
It's a different line, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
I think so.
They're all 770.
So this contribution, what is the different one? is 100,000 from Family Community Services, and that is a flow through. We get that in grant. So if I just quickly scoot up, sorry for the, but we get grants from the provincial government.
And then we could talk about.
We get $94,000 in grants from Family Services, and we flow that through to Big Lakes, and then we pay them $48,000 for the airport as well. That's what's on that line, 148.
Well, no, we have to do a certain amount to keep that grant. They put a lot more. They put
Okay, any other questions at this point?
Nope.
Nope, all good here.
Okay. Now, we had the question just before we leave this was to talk about those reserves and needed to do that as a in-camera item. Do we want to do that now, or do we want to, I guess, have Dave come back in later near the end of the meeting to go over the reserves?
Can we do it in camera? In the middle
Which
of
would
the-
I don't have a lot of detailed information about the reserves, so I don't have a report on it. It's probably a quick discussion.
Okay. Well, I'm just asking because I know we've got Chris in there, and if we go in camera, then we'll have to ask him to leave, and then come back in after a short time, or we can do it at the end. But then Dave is sitting there having to come back in later on in the meeting, so we could do it either way. I just want to know what would work.
Chris said he'd step outside for now.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, let's do it now then, and then Dave's out, and then we can have Chris come back in.
So I need
Yeah.
a motion to move in camera.
Well, before we do that, I guess, yeah, I was just thinking when we don't want to close, we had a motion on the floor to receive the financial report for information, but I guess we need to go in camera first as well. We're having that discussion, right? Or do we have to vote on that, receiving it for information, and then make another motion to go in camera?
I would vote on this motion.
Vote on it first.
And then
Okay.
make another motion to go in camera.
All right. Okay, so anybody opposed to receiving the report for information? I hear nothing. Okay, it's carried. And then I'll make the motion that we go into camera to discuss the reserve funding or reserve accounts.
Yeah, that's just me.
829.
Hey, next we can have a smoke break. Oh, I shouldn't.
I couldn't stop this.